From Louisiana, Mr. Johnson, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Austin, my constituents, and I know millions of other Americans remain extremely concerned about the politicization of the Department of Defense. We've talked about this before. The policies that you've implemented have led to what we believe is the worst recruiting crisis in the history of the DoD, become a distraction to our service members when they should be focused on maintaining the most lethal fighting force in the history of the world at this critical time, and third, have caused public perception of the military to crater over the last couple of years. These are objective facts. I want to focus on that third point because in November of last year, the Reagan Foundation conducted a survey of thousands of Americans that spanned the spectrum of demographic criteria. Just 5 years ago, everybody needs to understand this, 5 years ago, that same survey found that 70% of Americans had a great deal of trust and confidence in the military. But last year, that number plummeted to 48%. So we got to let that sink in. Less than half of the American public has a great deal of trust and confidence in our military. Secretary Austin, do you know what the top response was when the surveyors asked the people why their trust in the military has eroded?
I don't.
I want to enter that report into the record, if that's okay.
Without objection, so ordered.
And I'd commit it to your reading because 62% of the respondents in that nationwide poll said that military leadership has become overly politicized, and that has decreased their confidence. So we know that confidence in the military is eroded. We know that the top reason for that erosion is the military leadership is just too political, and that brings us to the decisions you've made. Last year, we talked about the COVID vaccine mandate, and we knew at that time that was going to lead to a recruiting shortfall. It already had. You reiterated here your unwillingness to repeal the policy, and thankfully we intervened in the NDAA to repeal it ourselves. But our lingering concern here is that the damage done by that mandate is still being realized. It's probably irreparable, and I think the Reagan Foundation survey is proving some evidence of that. But now, the issue of the day now is your next crusade, and it appears to be abortion policy. On February 23rd, dozens of members of this committee wrote to you asking very important information relating to the department's new abortion travel policy. Are you familiar with the letter we sent you and or the response that we received just last week, finally, from Undersecretary Cisneros?
I am familiar with the letter.
Well, did you see the response? Did you review it before it went out?
I've seen the response, yes.
It was a non-response. It answered none of our important questions, and the most important of which was the legal justification, because here again, you're not only causing division, you're exceeding your legal authority. Abortion travel policy that's here provides the basis for reimbursing service members for travel costs associated with obtaining an abortion, but the law is very clear, law and the legislative intent behind it. Title 10, Section 1093 explicitly prohibits funds available to the DoD from being used in abortion services. I get that you're trying to find a crafty workaround, but it's a blatant violation of the intent behind the statute. Are you aware of the applicable statute here?
I tell you what I am aware of, and that is that this policy is based on sound legal basis. And if you go to the Department of Justice's public-facing website, you'll see what their opinion of this is as well. And again, I would emphasize that 1 in 5 of our troops are women. 80,000 of them now live in places where they don't have access to non-covered reproductive health care. So this is important to our force. I've heard from our force, I heard from our leaders, our senior enlisted leaders, I heard from our chiefs, our secretaries. This is something that's very important to the force.
What's more important is adherence to the rule of law, sir. And in our system, it is the United States Congress that makes those decisions, not you. This is a statute that was created by the people's elected representatives, and the last time I checked, not a single person in this country voted for you. You're not an elected official. You don't get to make this policy. And this insistence upon diving into issues outside of simply maintaining a lethal and capable fighting force is tearing our military apart.
This is the most combat credible force on the planet.
Then why is the trust of the American people eroded so much? Why do all these surveys over and over confirm what we know intuitively, that they don't trust the leadership of the military? You're diving into issues that you should not be involved in. There's a process in our constitutional system. We expect for you to respect that.
The troops trust the re-enlistment rates are higher than they've ever been in 50 years.
Listen,
our troops like what they're doing. They like the fact that their leadership cares about them. And we're going to continue to care about it.
I have 15 seconds left. I'm going to ask you to repeal this unlawful policy. It will be challenged in court, I'm certain. You will certainly lose it. But save us all the hassle and follow the law. That's what I'm asking. I yield back.